Cool. Hello, guys. Do I need this or okay? So I'm Hadrien Mazelier. I work at Starling Bank, and today I'm going to talk about a methodology to split stories in MVVM projects. Well, this is not a silver bullet solution, but at least it works for us. So to give a bit of context about why this is interesting, I guess all of you have been working in environments where for some reasons you have to submit pull requests when you want to push code in production. It can either be for like certification reasons, like us at Starling, but it's also really interesting if you want to keep track with your team of what you're doing for code awareness. And so this is the problem I have encountered both as a reviewer and also as like a committer. In case you didn't see, like it's pretty annoying when you have to review such a huge PR. Actually, it's annoying both for the reviewer and for the person that emits his commit. It's quite stressful, at least for me, it was. And so, first of all, before digging in, I'm going to go through like an amazing, like it's ideal situation. It's we will go from scratch with a brand new feature. It's not for like evolution code, but we will talk a bit later about that because this can definitely be adapted to existing code. And this is also, in the assumption, this is like a MVVM project with like view controllers, view models, like stores, stuff like that. You will see. So I want to split into steps. First steps are there is times matter, like other matters, but the good thing about it is that at some point you won't be forced to follow like a strict timeline. So the first step is to submit a pull request when you will be modifying the structure of your project. So the idea here, this is our nice feed in the Starling application. And the idea here is to have kind of a brainstorm. When you get the like specs, either in terms of behavior, but also in terms of design from your product and designers, you will have to make some efforts to try to see with as much accuracy as possible all the files, resources you have to add to the project. I actually here started with storyboard. We don't use storyboard. In case some of you don't like it at all, we don't, but I just wanted to show that this is something that we can add right now. Like if you have a table view, you will probably, a table view or collection view or whatever, you will probably want to have a data source also. So this could be a separate file in the project. You will also identify the views, widgets, cells, however you want to call it. So here we have a table view cell for a feed item. We have a header. These are all the things that you want to identify and put in a single, like the first pull request. Why is this interesting to separate this in a single pull request? It's because I guess some of you have already had conflicts, merging conflicts on like projects files, configuration files. That's not fun at all. We want to avoid it. So you don't need to put any implementation in those files. You just want to add the files to the project, have like sensible names for the files. And also it's interesting because if for any reason you're not following the guidelines inside the project, from the project, your team will be able to tell you, no, well, this is not the structure, or you should put this there or there. And also I forgot to mention it, but this is also where if you need to add a store in your store or like any API related file, then you would also add it here. And then you submit this pull request. Then Okay, I'm going to talk about protocols, not deep, but I like protocols, and so here we want to implement the empty models for the scene or story, however you want to call it. So I like namespacing with empty enums, but it's up to you. You can use case. It's really personal choice. And also you want to add like business models. This is important because then you want to, in this pull request, define your contracts, your protocols. It's really important because once you will have defined your dependencies protocols in contracts, then you will be easily able to split the load across the people in the team. Well, there is actually one other step to make things easy to making things easier to split and spread the load across the team. Is that, let's say, for presentation logic, you will need to have if you want someone to work specifically on the presentation logic, you will have also to implement the business models and the view models, but those are like quite trivial structures. So you submit it. It's important also to mention that this is from outside how how each of your components will behave. So it's good for your teammates to review potentially all of them, all the guys from your team, or not only one person, to review this because it's a really short PR. This is also the benefit of this. And so it will be quick to review, but at the same time, it's really easy to point if something is wrong. Like there is no implementation detail, but you can have an idea of if something is wrong, if maybe you didn't understand correctly the specs. That's fine, that's possible, you're a human. And so you submit this, and then that's what I was telling you. I spoiled a bit my own presentation, but here you will implement your DEM structures. So your view models, you will also implement your your business models, and this way starts where we won't get into it. But once you have submitted this, I've done this. Basically, the idea behind this is an important thing. Like within the team, you wanna communicate, you wanna talk with your teammates, and especially if you have a big story and you wanna spread it and see in your team, you might be more confident with pure logic. Some might be confident with pure UI things. So you wanna be smart and give the right task to the right person. And so this is a point. This is an opportunity to talk and see who is going to do what within your team. And then, so I'm sorry, there won't be any demo. I put all the code inside of this because it's not really interesting to go deep into the implementation of each of the components. But here you will create a single PR just for what I call the MVVM, but I think some call it the interactor. There is different name, but they all lead to the same concept. And so here you will implement completely the logic of this component, and it will be convenient for you because you will already have the contracts for your dependencies, either your store or presenter or any worker dependencies you would have, and you don't care about how they do it. You just care what they do, right? So also it's really important that any code you ship, as those are very small PRs, you really want to polish the tests. I don't initially I don't like tests, but I realized that tests can save a lot of time and release some pressure. So as you make smaller PRs, don't hesitate to have really rich tests. Even I highly suggest to have a behavior-driven development. You write your test, you check the behavior from the beginning, and you see how it goes. And then only if it passes, then you commit and you push. You submit, you get used to it. And this time you are going to work on the presentation layer. So this is, some people might ask why here a struct and why there a class. There is a really good post I would provide on the group, on the meetup group, the details, but that Adam made us discover about when it's interesting to use structs and when it's interesting to use classes. In this case, as we have pure functions and we don't wrap any reference type, it makes sense to have a struct. So same here. You wanna test your presenter, implement it, test it, but it's really trivial because it's mainly mapping functions. I forgot to mention that behind in the MVVM, when you test your MVVM, one common trap is to pitfall is to try to test everything, like from the logic, the inner logics, to the presentation layer. You will want to mock your presentation layer to only test against the logic, how it behaves. It's really important. At least it saves some time and it makes like a test much easier to review and understand when you read it. So that's the point of this presentation. So you submit this, then you do your magic with your views. You tie things up together. I wanna like point here that this is one approach, and one other very smart approach could be to, from the beginning, instead of only having protocols when you deal with your presentation layer or any layer, it's interesting if you want to start as soon as possible, only if you can hide things behind something that makes you feel secure, like a remote config or a feature flag. It's interesting to potentially create like fake implementations just to quickly get to the point where you want to test. So basically, if the person that works on the view wants to work as soon as possible, but doesn't want to wait from the guy to finish both the presentation and logic layer, then you can just mock those temporary and start working on this. So it's pretty cool. So there's not really, it doesn't really matter how, like the order and how you deal with it. You submit, and this is an interesting bit also. This is the final bit. This is a final, but it could also be the first if you want. It's a choice. That's what I just told. Basically, this is where you tied all things together, and we assume that at this point it should be working. But yet, we use and we love to use for the dependency injection a framework called Swinject. Maybe you guys know it. We'll talk about it slightly later. But the great thing about it is that if you have some temporary implementation that you want to use temporarily, but don't want to pollute anything at the implementation level, you don't want to pollute your view controller or your MVVM or whatever, it's really cool to use a dependency injection framework like Swinject, because when you instantiate your instance matching a specific protocol, you can switch implementation based on one specific feature flag or one specific argument you pass at runtime. It's up to you. So it's really cool. You submit. So this is already the end of this part. Quick talk. So, well, this is so basic, but I guess you all know that this is true, but this is easy when you have small PR that you submit. It's much easier because then you canalize your what you're doing to a specific piece of your whole story, and so testing it doesn't become like a huge chimera that is frightening. It's really specific. And also, as you have split your different testing logic between logic and presentation, it becomes cool, honestly. And following this, well, keep flexible. This is about like I've been in this case, so I can talk about it. Like when you have like kind of a methodology or something you want to follow, you can easily fall into a kind of not an obsession, but like very strict, and you don't want to get away from it. But what I meant here is, it's fine if you realize that once you are, while you are doing your presentation logic PR, if you realize that something went wrong in your in somewhere else in a previous PR, you can fix it and put it in this PR. It's fine. The main thing is to have like concise yet thematized pull requests. So this is more general. This is some tools we use and we really like. Well, except Sam, he doesn't like it because of generics, but it's fine. I mean, you would most of the time love it, I guess. And that's absolutely useful when you're testing your different layers. For those who know a bit the Java world, it makes things like Mockito accessible with iOS. Swift particularly, it's code generation, so it's really cool. You can mock things easily. This is a dependency injection framework I've told you about. The important thing here is a concept. It's not really the framework by itself, but this one is really cool. We like it, we use it, and I highly recommend it. Those are like framework that are very like matching the concept of behavior-driven, test-driven development because they make things much clearer. You can share some piece of context and you can share some piece of also pre-testing. Really, well, I don't have the words to express how cool it is. So I advise you to check it if you didn't yet. And this is also a cool thing because first of all, it increases your ability to express your ideas. It's also it makes, I would say, reviewing more ludic because sometimes it can be boring. But if you talk with your mate and like go through it, it's much faster. Also for like a correction, if you have any review comments to apply, it's really cool. So that's a basic tip, but cool. Also, this is probably the most important bit because this was like the perfect scenario. You end up with you have to develop a new feature from scratch, nothing to work with. You can just do whatever you want, but in some cases you will have to make coexist two different versions. So this is a really good way to achieve this securely. So you can push in production or in staging of our environment code that is not really finished, polished, or whatever. So this is like a really important thing. And yeah, that's all. Thank you. And if you have any question, don't hesitate.